Welcome to our webinar today. My name is Tanu, and we have a guest speaker, Pranav, with us. And just to give you guys a little intro as to why we're here today, it's to talk all about college applications. And this means a overview of timeline of everything that you need to be doing to either gear up for it, or now that August 1st is coming around, what your timeline is going to look like from here on out. But it's also going to be filled with lots and lots of tips and tricks and insight. And I'm going to be leaving a really large portion of this Zoom call open for questions so we can hear from you guys and answer whatever doubts that y'all have. So we're going to spend about 30 to 40 minutes kind of going over this presentation and giving you guys a lot of info. And at the very end, we're going to have about an hour or so to answer all of your pressing questions. And during the duration of this presentation, at any point, should you have any questions, just pop them in the chat and we're either going to answer them right there or we're going to wait till after the presentation and start working through it. So the chat is going to be your best friend. Ask any and every question in there. There is no wrong question out there. And again, just to give you guys a little context, so top right link, so that WhatsApp QR code is going to take you to a WhatsApp group where I'm going to be sending a lot of updates. You guys can put questions in there after this webinar, and lots of people will be willing to help you out. And it's also going to give you very direct access to all of our future information. And then last but not least, on the bottom right, there's another QR code. It's also in the chat. I can put it in again. But for that one, again, you can put in your email in there, and then I'll send a recording of this webinar, recordings of past webinars, as well as lots of recent information as that does become available. And this session, just to preemptively approach it, is going to be for all high schoolers and even before that. So everyone from 9th grade onwards is going to find information in here really, really useful. And just to start off with a tiny get to know me, my name is Tanushree Devirala, and I'm studying at UT Austin. I'm double majoring in business analytics and the business honors program with a minor in finance and anthropology. And a little bit about my high school background. I was a PSAT National Merit finalist, a top 1% scorer on the SAT, and the salutatorian of my high school class. I was involved in a lot of orgs and extracurriculars, and since then, in the past year to two, I've been tutoring a lot of students in SAT, as well as counseling them in college applications. I find this to be a lot of fun, and I see the impact that it has on you guys, because all of you have so many questions. And as someone who's just finished that part of my journey, I'm really happy to do research for you and really understand your position and help you out wherever that is. And that's kind of the whole point of these webinar series, to give you the help and the aid that you need from a very recent source, all college students that have just been in the boat that you are. And then next, I want to introduce our guest speaker for the day, Pranav Bhupalam. I've known him since forever, and he is an amazing person. So I'll let him take the stage and introduce himself real quick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Pranav, and I'm an incoming sophomore at the University of Michigan, where I'll be dual majoring in urban technology and computer science. For those of you who don't know what urban technology is, it's just the intersection of cities, code, and data, and how we're able to use code and data to elevate urban lifestyles. Just a little bit about me and previous experiences. In high school, I was an international winner in DECA, and I was really involved in my community and the school itself, whether it be through clubs or conferences and the entire student council district. I'm really excited to understand your experiences and help you through the process of college admissions and really the entire out-of-state experience, as well as finding niche majors that might be interested to y'all as well.
All right, super. Thank you, Pranav. I think we're all very, very excited for the session and to hear from you. And just as a brief table of contents, we're going to be going over 4 main things today. First off, how do you create yourself a college list? And this is important all the way from if you're a 9th grader to applying right now in August, because you can spend hours and hours applying to every college on the planet, but then you're going to lose your quality, and you're also not going to get into the programs that you're best fit for. So we're going to be looking looking a little into how to research on that. And then two, we're going to be looking at essays. Essays are such a big topic in everyone's brains when coming to college apps, and they're a very important part of the application process. So we'll be going over a little bit on that. Then our activities section. So this is your resume, your extracurriculars. And then last but not least, we've outlined a timeline for you on benchmarks on where you should be throughout your high school process when gearing up for college, just to give you sort of an idea of what you should expect, what you should be ready to go into as you go into it. And like I mentioned before, at the very end, we are going to have a Q&A session where we can answer all your questions. And then one more time, if you have questions during the presentation, don't hold back, put it in the chat and we'll answer as soon as we can. So just to start off, before getting into the nitty gritty of the presentation, I want to start off by saying that everything that we say is very objective. There are a lot of perspectives that go into high school journeys and college applications, and no journey is the same. What I did worked for me, what Pranav did worked for him, and a lot of different stories work for their people. And there is no one particular surefire way of getting into a certain college. It's more of how do you embrace your journey? How are you showcasing your passion, your determination, and your grit? And with that being said, again, no journey is the same. So use these as pointers and build off of it for your own. And two, early planning is the best planning. You do not want to be blindsided in the college application process with your SATs, with your essays. You want to be pre-informed. So it's really good that you guys are here today and planning to plan early. And then last but not least, don't be afraid to explore or initiate items. For all these colleges, as a baseline, I can assure you that regardless of your merits, you could have cured cancer or you could have done nothing at all, related to the major that you want to choose. But at the very base bottom line, colleges look for initiation. They look for people that are willing to do what it takes and research and start things on their own. So don't be afraid. Explore all the opportunities that are presented to you and take a brave step forward throughout your entire college application process. And to kind of
start off, begin.
Over.
Go ahead. So to begin the entire college process, we first have to define how we choose our college and what college we're really deciding upon. When we're talking about this, we're really talking about three main aspects. You're trying to figure out where your safety schools are, what your target is, and really where you're planning to reach for as well. For those of you who might not know what this process is like, you're trying to find what is the exact right fit for you. A target might be a school that fits you more academically and culturally or socially, while a safety might be easier for you to get into, and you might be looking for options and you get your target. For safeties, you're trying to look for 2 to 3, while your targets try to look for between 3 to 5 that you're really interested in. And finally, you should be also looking for your reach schools. Your reach schools are ones that you might find you might not get in, but these are your dreams. These are schools that you're really interested in and the schools that you really want to get into. By looking at these different colleges, you're able to really find the ones that you're interested in and see processes that might be easier for you. So again, while you're doing this, it might be hard to figure out which colleges you're looking at, what you might be seeing, and exactly what the schools are about. So we've tried to figure out 6 main aspects in researching your campus that might help it easier to find colleges you're specifically interested in. For me specifically, the number one topic that I found that was really focused on was your majors. You can narrow down your interests, whether it be STEM, educations, humanities, consider those programs, and then look at which colleges have those programs. For me, the University of Michigan had my urban technology program that I found really interesting. The second topic you need to look at is location. It's a really big difference whether you're in state or you're out of state, if you're on the city or on a college campus or a college town, and especially the industries in your area. You might find NYU might have really good processes for getting you into the business world or finance compared to the University of Michigan, which has an amazing medical school that can help you get into medicine. And that's very important as well when you're looking at affordability. You're looking at public versus private colleges. You're looking at in-state versus out of state. How do those processes and how do those different colleges help you specifically? And where can you find the best financial aid if that's a specific topic for you? These three main aspects are what we specifically focused on in the very beginning of our research. We also looked at three more. So for us, what we thought were the next three important aspects were academic details. At the University of Michigan, we have a lot of smaller class sizes, and that's what made me try to find that program as well. Some people enjoy bigger class sizes or different processes, clubs, and extracurriculars that might be helpful. In addition, post-grad resources are really important. Like we said before, industry ties, alumni networks, and job and internship placements is half the reason why we go to college sometimes. And having the processes in these colleges really help. Having big alumni networks like UT Austin, with Michigan or even Texas A&M. These alumni networks help you place places, and looking at these places that have big alumni networks helps you as well. And finally, look at campus life. Everyone has a different aspect that they enjoy, and having a competitive aspect that helps you become a better version of yourself. Looking at organizations that you might be interested in, like a dance team or like another club like Mod UN that you might be interested in. Pursuing your passions into college as well is a really important aspect of it. And seeing what you're interested in college and seeing which colleges offer that is really important. So for looking into campus research, I'd say these are the six most important aspects that you're trying to do. But when you're doing that, sometimes it's hard to note everything down and really keep everything together and organized. So you have to keep a spreadsheet, score your colleges. When I was scoring my colleges, I did like a little 1 to 10 thing with food. I would keep like 1 being like my least favorite food, and that was equal to my least favorite college, while 10 being like a Chipotle, and I kept my best favorite college. So make your own metrics to see what's your favorite, how do you decide which colleges are interesting to you, whether they be for your safeties, your targets, or your reaches, and talk to current students. Many of you might have friends in these colleges, or even search up people on LinkedIn that might be doing the programs in these colleges that you're interested in. Reach out to them and find their interests and passions and why they decided to go to college. And then finally, attend major specific information sessions. We usually look at these colleges like they're one whole program and they all have the same resources, even if you're in different sections. But when I was doing my research and when Thanu was doing hers as well, we noticed that colleges many times are different based off of the specific major you're interested in. And attending these major specific information sessions will really help you understand what might make the college more better for you and what may make it specifically fit for you as well.
Yes, and just to give another little tidbit of information, when we're talking about majors and programs, this kind of goes back to your whole thing about story and specifications, right? No one person's journey is the same. I, for one, for example, am very, very interested in business, but I'm also very interested in computer science, data science, things of that sort. So for me, that program that I was looking for was a either combination of both of these or an integrated master's program or something of that sort. So when it comes to majors, like it's not just the majors that are offered, but special programs. And to give you guys examples on this particular collaboration, right? UT Austin has a CSB program, Computer Science and Business, and you apply to that on top of your normal majors, and you can get in that way. Or the same thing at UPenn, the Jerome Fisher program, or Berkeley has the MET program, things of that sort. And same thing with Pranav, actually. So he's doing urban technology, and that's an integration of multiple different majors and interests into one cohort. And to kind of like specify, like the program that he's in, they only take 50 people a year. So if he hadn't done extensive research and looked into more than just like the university's rankings, he wouldn't have been able to find that particular niche program and get into it. And that's why research is so important. This is just one aspect of it, but researching is it in-state, out-of-state, financial capabilities, things of that sort can give you a really clear idea on what colleges you want to apply to. Soon, as you start looking into all of these colleges, you'll realize that when we say apply to 8 to 12 colleges, that's going to be a pretty hard choice. There are so many contestants for those 8 to 12 spots out there that you want to make sure that your journey is best catered to the ones that you're applying to, and you're not wasting your time nor your potential by not researching to your fullest extent. And also, there's a couple of messages in the chat asking about recordings. We will be recording this, and I will be posting it. Again, like in the chat, there is two links for the WhatsApp group and like the information, like what is it, Google form. Bhavya, can you pop it in there one more time? We'll put that in the chat again. So just use that if you would like to access recordings. All right. Okay, so next topic, let's talk a little bit about essays. So there are two different types of essays that you're going to be facing. One of them is going to be your personal statement and then your supplementals. And let's focus on personal statement first. So your personal statement is going to be an essay that you're going to use for almost every single college that you apply to. And just to preemptively like approach this, the platform that you're most likely going to use to apply for college is called Common App. And August 1st is the day that you want to sign up for your Common App account. If you sign up beforehand, it does delete your data. So if you have already signed up and started working, I would highly encourage you guys to copy everything that you've put in there and then keep a backup of it, because on August 1st, all of that does reset. So on Common App, there's going to be one place where you can put your personal statement and it sends that to all of your essays. And the typical prompt that you're working with is discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself or others. And for this particular essay question, like there are some different formats that you can use. You can scan the QR code and it takes you to the Common App page with a bunch of the different essay prompts because you do have a bit of a choice. However, let's break down this typical prompt, because the biggest mistake people do when they're applying to colleges through the personal statement essay is not answering the question or all parts of the question. So within this question itself, first, it wants an accomplishment or an event. So your answer has to include one specific, not more than one specific accomplishment or event. And then two, so what change it created in you. So you need a little before and an after. And then that event is that catalyst for what happened for you to change. And you want to include both of these notions. If it's not an accomplishment or an event, then it's not really going to fit this prompt. And however, like this is just one of the prompts. You want to take a look at the other prompts as well and break it down similarly. Always, always, always break it down for yourself. Also, for this one, typically you're going to have 500 to 750 words be your limit. It depends though, because some colleges require something different. I would say just to be on the safe side, shoot for about 600 to 650 words. That should be a good minimum or medium. Go ahead and do that. And then last but not least, one big tip that I have for you guys is read and revise. To kind of break that down for you, by read, I mean go on Google, search up personal statement essays by other students, and read through these essays because there are so many beautiful essays out there, and they're going to give you a really good idea of how you should approach your own essay. So go online, read as many personal statement essays as you can, and then after that, for revise, after you've written yourself a draft or two, you're going to go through a couple of revision states by yourself, and then pick 2 to 3 peers or adults or teachers that are going to revise it for you. You don't want to do more than just 2 or 3 because too many cooks spoil the dish. And having too many people give insight into your personal essay can make it less of your own essay, more of someone else's, and give you very conflicting thoughts on what to do. And on this note, one more point I want to make, please, 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 please don't use ChatGPT for your essays. Common App and College Board have come out saying that they have extensive resources now to detect the use of AI. And if they detect that, not only is it going to deter your chances of getting into that college, they can blacklist you or communicate what's happening to other colleges, and you don't want that on your record. It is not worth it. And on top of it, ChatGPT more or less makes your essay sound like every other essay on this planet. All right. And you want to stay authentically true to yourself and answer this purely with your experiences and your own words. They look for the tone and your style of writing when they're reading these essays. They want to know who you are, not ChatGPT. So this is just my piece of advice to you guys. Please don't use ChatGPT. It's not worth it. And so overall, all in all, for the personal statement, you want to keep it about 600 to 650 words and keep it to your most important event that has happened in your high school life, in a sense that has changed you into who you are. And also for these, if you're looking for revision, reach out to me afterwards and I can help you guys on these essays as well. And then Pranav, do you want to talk about the supplementals?
Yeah, of course. So your supplemental essays are unique to your college, your major, or your program. Whether it's your specific, your college might have 2 to 3 essays or even 7 essays per school. And many times they're trying to focus on your personal values and interests and see how they align with the school. For the University of Michigan, for example, we had 2 essays. As a big, large school, they really wanted to focus on community, and we had one essay that focused on that, while another one focused on our interests and how we are able to implement that in our major specific program. So these areas is where you're trying to focus specifically on your story and your interests. While the whole personal statement earlier talked about your personality, who you are, this is where you're able to get into the nitty-gritty about your entire story, your interests, and how you develop that entire process. Um, One thing I do suggest is showing specific details to demonstrate like your continued progress and interest and how you fit with the college. This might mean you're Googling your college's values and how they're able to utilize that in in the college itself. What programs do they have to help students? What clubs? What different initiatives do they have that you're interested in joining? And how are you going to be able to do that at the university? So these are the interests that you're trying to focus on in your supplemental essays and this key points that you're trying to do while developing these essays as well.
All right. Yes. So again, the essays are purely to show your story, and that story is something that you want to show, not tell. And that is a really big tip that I think Pranav you can attest. Like we heard that so much when we were writing our own applications, and it's something that I tell students all the time. Your resume is where you're highlighting all of your accomplishments, you're bragging about yourself, you're like numbers, this is what I did, blank, blank, and blank. But on your supplemental essays and your personal statement, you don't want to just show that. You don't, for example, let's say I raised $10,000 for a charity. Okay. So in my essay, if that was the accomplishment or statement that I'm writing about, and I say I was very passionate about this, and hence I ended up raising $10,000 for this charity. It made me very proud and changed me into blah 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 blah. Okay, that versus elaborating on it and being like, child rights are something that are very very important to me, and I saw the struggle in the people around me, and so with that passion and a motivation to do something about it, I went to various different charity homes. And there I found out blank, blank, and blank resources. And hence I researched about those. And there I found my jackpot, this organization that really resonated with all of my values. And for it, I found a community in there that I helped foster. And together we were able to host events that brought up more than $10,000 in charity. And even you don't even need that 10,000 part. It's more about what did you do to get to that accomplishment. The accomplishment, that's in your resume. They've already seen it. They want to hear your story on why you did it and how you got there. And also in the chat, we had a question asking for examples of accomplishments to put on an essay. So this can range from person to person, right? You can make it major related if you would like to. If not, it can be something totally unrelated. It can be about the organizations that you're a part of, whether in school or out of, something that maybe you're proud of, a leadership position, maybe winning a competition of some sort, and it can totally be unrelated to your major. For example, I know someone who applied to be in a business program, and his personal statement was about wrestling and how he was able to get that started and continued at his school. And another person who wrote about, let's say, like me personally, I wrote about a school organization called DECA. Other people wrote about like lessons that they've done, competitions, swim, or any fine arts that you're a part of. You can literally write about anything, but it just has to be an accomplishment that changed you of some sort. And you need to be able to talk about it for a really long time. So definitely choose something that's impactful. And the biggest thing there is going to be write about something that no one else in this world can write about but you. Make it truly unique to yourself. Okay. And that's going to be the biggest tip in terms of what accomplishment you want to talk about. And another question we had is for the personal prompt, is it okay if we talk about events before high school? That's not going to be too recommended. You want to stick to things that happened in high school, because if you're talking about eighth grade and before that, it becomes slightly a bit too diluted and too long ago. And specifically, if you look at this question, let's get back to it. Okay, discuss an accomplishment. Okay, if you read through the other questions, you'll notice that most of them say in high school. So they only want high school. I wouldn't highly recommend talking about things before it. If you are an underclassman, I promise by the time you get to this point, you're going to have some sort of a thing. And also, one more thing I want to kind of prompt to you guys is, even if you're not applying in this August, the reason this presentation and these points are so relevant to you is you need to think about this in the back of your head. As you're signing up for things or trying to venture out and do new things, think about this. What is my story? How is this going to help me become the character that I want to? So think about that in the back of your head. All right, and we'll take the rest of the questions as we kind of go through the presentation. Next, let's talk a little bit about the activity section. So this is where your extracurriculars, resume, etc. happen. And to preemptively, again, like tell you a little bit, Common App has an activity section where you can have a maximum of 10 activities that you enter into the system. My suggestion for you, and you'll hear this a lot, is you make these very impactful events. You don't have to take up all 10 of those slots. You can just do 6 to 8, and that is fully fine. You don't want any fluff in these 10 things that you put. You only want to put really, truly impactful things that the colleges need to see about you. Okay? And to kind of break down the activities, like how you're going to showcase, there are 3 different ways they might ask you to showcase. So like I said, the activity section, that's a standard for all colleges in Common App. And then 2, you'll also have an expanded resume option. For a lot of things, it's optional for that. Some schools require it, like UT Austin. And then you have a 1-page resume that they might ask. The 1-page resume is very rare. Usually you're either going to be asked for an expanded or optional expanded, or you're just going to get the activity section. Usually it's one of those two. And to kind of go into a little bit of detail, for your expanded resume, there is no limit. You can write 30 pages if you so wish to. But an ideal thing is going to be anywhere from 4 to, let's say, 8 pages long, depending on what you have to write about. And for your expanded resume, you should write absolutely everything that you've done. And my tip for you guys, especially if you're not just applying in August 1st, is to have yourself a running resume throughout high school. Every time you do something, whether it's related to a major or anything at all, right? Like, for example, on my resume, I wrote about a time that I was a radio host. How does that help me get into data science or business? Well, it doesn't really, but it's still something that I spent my time in, right? So write everything on that running resume throughout your high school, and then on your expanded one, you're going to format it nicely, and that's going to be your submission. For your activity section, like I already said, you only want to do your very, very, very developed and most important activities. You don't want to flood it with minuscule things. That's for your expanded, your essays, all of the others. And then last but not least, when talking about a resume, please understand that people only look at resumes if you're applying for jobs and internships and stuff for literally an average of 6 seconds. Like, they have reported that that is the average. For college apps, however, they do take a minute to 2, but that is still a very small time. Like a minute, like time yourself 60 seconds, you'll notice how hard it is to take in every single word in the resume. And because of that, you want to make sure that you're using techniques to really grab attention to the points that you want to give across. And one of those big techniques that I love using and is very taught about even in my business school is the XYZ method, where every bullet point that you're writing under your resume has this type of a format. I accomplished X as measured by Y by doing Z. So let's take that $10,000 charity one more time. So for accomplishment, I can say raised adequate funds. Okay, so I accomplished X, or raised $10,000. Raised funds. So that's my accomplished X as measured by Y. That's going to be by doing 4 charity events and raising $10,000. So that's your kind of last two items as measured by that $10,000. That's why by doing Z, 3 to 4 charity events. So that's kind of how you want to break down every single bullet point that you're doing. And your bullet points are important because unless you are being very detailed and impactful within the bullet points, it doesn't matter if you, again, solve cancer, right? Like if you can't show it in your bullet points, they're not going to let you take credit for it, which is why it's very, very important. On the QR code, I have linked a tip on how to use the XYZ method, so you guys can use that. And as always, like I said before, I do offer college counseling, so you guys can just reach out to me and I can help you format your resume, your essays, etc. And then next, I'll give it off to Pranav to talk about the timeline.
So this timeline really helps all students, whether they're in senior year or they're starting all the way in freshman year. And we'll be talking about how we can see the process of college admissions in a more easier to understand way from the very beginning. When we look at college admissions, even for freshmen, it's important to like try everything. Right now, it isn't really that important to be focusing on your specific major or the college you're interested in, but see what interest you have itself. When you're trying to turn that interests into your college degree, that's a later point. And right now, it's just important to find what you're interested in, and see how you're able to add that to your story, like Donna was talking before. Then starting your sophomore year, that's where we're trying to tone it down or zone it and narrow it down to your 1 to 2 areas of interest. It's important to show initiative for those resumes and for the essays that you're looking at. Colleges like to see that you're having initiatives from the very beginning and you're having a lot of you're putting a lot of effort and time into these clubs, organizations, and interests from freshman year all the way to senior year. And finally, it's important in August of your sophomore year to really start studying for the SAT, PSAT, and start understanding how the test works, because it's just a game at the end of the day. And sometimes just working on the SAT is like just understanding how the test works rather than the actual knowledge itself. And then finally, in May of your sophomore year, it's important to start prepping for the PSAT as well. The PSAT has a lot of different things that can help you with, from getting into college itself, where you're able to put your PSAT score in, to scholarships. There's a lot of scholarships that you can get from just getting a national merit. And for school like USC, for example, you're able to get half your tuition off just from your PSAT score. And really putting a lot of effort into this, which a lot of people don't realize, can help you through the entire college process and even afterwards as well. After your sophomore year, that's when you're trying to start focusing on your actual colleges. So like from freshman to sophomore year, you should be just focusing on your interests. How can you create that story and how can you see that progress grow? In August of your junior year is when you're trying to take your first SAT. You've already prepped for it. You've already done your PSAT prep, and now you're taking your first SAT and PSAT. And now it's when you're trying to find majors and careers that align with your 1 to 2 interests. When I was in my junior year in August, this is when we started to see which clubs I would be more interested in and get leadership positions in, or where I put my efforts in outside in my community as well. And that's again tied back into solidifying your initiatives, whether that's in school or out of school.
All right.
After that, it's your rest of the school year is specifically focused on a lot of different initiatives that Thana will be talking about specifically related to your colleges rather than your clubs, your majors, and your interests.
Yeah, so the next part is going to be about like midway through your junior year. This is where it really gets intense when it comes to college prep, right? Here is when you're going to start creating that college list, like we talked about earlier in the presentation. And from this time all the way till August is the time that you really want to focus on creating that list, researching, researching, researching. And on top of it, now that you kind of understood what major you kind of would like to fall into, start researching for and applying to summer programs. And if you've looked at some of my earlier webinars, I've gone into detail on these, but these are things like internships, but also lots of colleges host their own summer programs. Other third-party organizations host a lot of these programs. So start applying for those, finding them, applying. And then last but not least, you also want to start heavy prep for your SAT. And Your SAT is going to, your first school day SAT is going to be in March. Okay. But a big tip that I'm going to give you guys is try to take your first SAT even before school even starts junior year. And if you were able to get that done in the summer before junior year, you're going to be saving yourself so much trouble and added workload on already a very stressful year. So start much earlier, but you can like gear in and like really lock in right before your March SAT. And then last but not least, at the very end of junior year, before school lets out, big tip, ask your teachers for recommendations. Most people wait until school starts back up again, their senior year, to ask. And by that time, the teacher is getting like 30 requests. Okay. But if you were to ask before the summer even starts, they have a really long time to actually give you a quality letter. So ask before your junior year even ends. And then obviously begin your summer initiatives, whether that be the programs that you apply to or a personal project, things of that sort. And here's also where you're going to apply for scholarships. On top of it, again, you can prep for your SAT here. A lot of people, if they're not happy with the SAT that they've taken thus far, they take it again in June and or June, August, or November. I believe those are the 3 days. And also really quick, just to plug it, I do have SAT prep. I'll give you guys this information later on. But if you guys are interested in that, I can give you a little bit more information as well. And then to go into senior year. So this is your bulk load of what you're doing for your for your college application in August. So August 1st. So what's coming up pretty soon? That's going to be the day that your Common App and all of your applications open up. And that's when you're going to, one, fix your and solidify your college list, like be fully sure in what you're doing exactly. And then two, you're going to start your essays because all of the essay prompts are going to be released. Hopefully you have been working on your personal statement before it though. And August 1st is when you're going to start working on your supplementals. And then again, you want to remind your teachers for recommendations. If you've done any work over the summer, send them a little ping like, hey, this is what I've been up to. I would love it if you could like include that in my letter. And then November of senior year, this is where all of your early applications are going to be due. So you're going to submit those, finish all your scholarship applications and all the supplemental materials that colleges have. And again, this is your last SAT opportunity. So if you're not happy with your score at this point, you have one more chance to take it so that you're able to submit it to the universities. And you're also going to have something called the FAFSA that you should fill out. It can give you some scholarship opportunities if you do wish if you do qualify for them. And that has a hard deadline, usually in November. So definitely get that in as well. And last but not least, December and January are going to be your final apps. Almost everything is due January, nothing is due after that. So submit the rest of your applications. And for your early applications that you've submitted, this is when they'll start rolling out interviews. So you'll get interview requests from people. So you're going to schedule those and you're going to take alumni interviews from the university. And then Pranav, would you like to finish it off?
And so finally, you're done with all the applications. This is your time to rest while you're waiting for your actual acceptances. In February and March, that rest is over, and this is the time where you're able to celebrate those acceptances and the applications that you've completed. This is also when you have to decide if you would like to accept waitlists. If you're not happy with your acceptances, sometimes colleges have offered you waitlists and will just tell you when the decisions come out. These waitlists are really important because they're a great way to still get into the college later in the school year. A lot of people have to submit letters of continued interest for their colleges and showcase that they're still interested and showcase what initiatives they've been working on throughout their senior year as well. While I did say in December and January, while you're waiting for your decisions, it's time to relax. It's not completely because you still have to show those initiatives in case you get a wait list and you want to talk about those in your letters of continued interest. Finally, it's really important in February and March to apply for housing. A lot of these colleges that are public and that are larger have very limited housing. And once you get these acceptances, apply for housing early, even if you're not sure if you're going to go to the college as well. If you decide in May that you want to go to the college, having that opportunity to have the housing itself helps a lot. And then finally, in May, this is a time for you to finalize your school and pay your deposit. It's time for you to celebrate and be happy that the entire journey is over and get excited for the dorm shopping, for the dorm food, and the entire process of going into college.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the best part. It's a lot of stress going through all of this application, but again, I think Pranav, you can agree too, it becomes a lot of fun when you're prepared, you're early, and on top of it, you're researching with an excited and open mind for all of the programs and things that are available for you. So honestly, the college application process, guys, this is like your door into everything else. Everything that until this point has been like, one level. And then after you get into college, literally the opportunities are endless. There are so many things out there for you to enjoy, to see. And by having a good application process, you're definitely going to end up where you're meant to be and where you're going to be really happy with the programs, the people, and everything else. So that's really big. So far, that is it for our presentation. Thank you for your time. I really hope that this has helped y'all and answered any questions that you have. But now we're gonna open it up for a couple questions. And one more time, if you want the recording and additional information, please use the link that has been put into the chat to fill out the form with your information, and I'll send it out to you right after. And actually a couple of announcements. So this is another form. I can pop it in the chat or you guys can scan it. We're planning on having a lot more webinars from here on out. So if you have any topic that you're interested in or any major or any particular field you want to hear more about, please go ahead and fill out this particular form so that I can do my due diligence and go ahead and find these opportunities and bring it to you guys. So go ahead and fill out this form, and I'm more than happy to incorporate that into our future sessions. And last but not least, like I told you guys about earlier, and a lot of you guys have been asking in the chat, these are the SAT courses. So I have another batch that is starting up in August. The seats for it are running out really quick. So if you guys are interested, please let me know ASAP, and I'll get you guys signed up. Or if you need any more information on it in terms of curriculum or anything of that sort, I'm happy to hop on a call with you and text whatever it is and answer any questions that you have when it comes to SAT as well. SAT is very, very important. It's like 25% of your entire college app process. So you definitely should be very, very prepared. All right, so I'll put this screen up so you guys have the future interest form, and Bhavya, if you can pop in the chat the other form one more time. And let's go on to our question and answer section. Let's go. All right. So someone asked, do colleges like personal struggle stories? Pranav, do you want to take this question?
Yeah, I think colleges don't completely like personal struggle stories, but they like hero stories instead. When you're looking at your personal struggles, try to focus on rather than how that struggle impacted you and made your life a little bit harder, focus more specifically on how you overcame that struggle, how you're able to put that into your entire life. Like Danu talked about earlier with her last prompt, focus on that event, specifically on how it's implemented in your personal growth story and how that's improved your how that's helped you become a better person in the process as a whole. That's what you want to focus on, and it's definitely important to talk about those aspects of your life, even in your college essays as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, honestly, it's very good to focus on things that have hurt you or hindered your progress, but that just needs to be a small chunk of it. And the biggest chunk of the essay really has to be, okay, now that that's happened to you, how did you change? How did you address that situation and grow as a person from it? And that should be the bulk load of your essay. So definitely, yeah. How and where do we apply for scholarships? So I can start this off and then Pranav, you can add on details. But first and foremost, one big thing for you is going to be the PSAT. So PSAT, SAT, they go together almost in terms of the topics that are on it. But the PSAT that you take your junior year, so 11th grade, that is going to open the door for a lot of scholarships for you. So first off, universities use that score as a direct reference when they're giving you financial aid. For example, because I was a finalist, let's say a college like UT Dallas, they give me a full ride. Okay. In fact, I would be earning money to go to their college, right? So they would pay off room and board, tuition, gave me a study abroad stipend, a food stipend, and spending dollars for whatever other expenses that I'd have every single month, all of that simply because of my PSAT score. And then this can also help you in out of state scenarios. For example, Vanderbilt and University of Southern California, you would get like in-state tuition or like 2/3 off of their tuition if you were a finalist and applying to their schools. And then there's different levels for your PSAT. You can be a finalist, a semi-finalist, commended, and like there's a bunch of other scholar options like rural and small town urban, like scholars, something like that. And all of these different levels kind of unlock different levels of scholarships for you at particular schools. That is to say, not every university does accept that. For example, the college that I decided to go to, UT Austin, they don't offer any merit-based aid. So because of that, the PSAT is rendered useless. So that takes you to your next round of scholarship applications, which is the scholarships you find out in the wild. Pranav, do you have a couple that you can talk about?
Yeah, I really think focusing on your local community is really important. Scholarships are very vast in your local area, and most of them don't have a lot of applicants itself. Leander ISD would, or other ISDs have them specifically that will give you a lot of small scholarships. But there are also a lot of large scholarships as well that are nationwide. One example is the Coke Scholars Scholarship from Coca-Cola. There's a few other examples in the medical field that are really helpful as well. And these different scholarships can help you gain a lot of money, but are a little bit harder to get into or harder to get. The Koch Scholars application, for example, has multiple steps from just your first application to a second interview round and a third application as well before you get officially called as a Koch Scholar finalist or a Koch Scholar. But those processes give you a lot of money as well. And lastly, I think it's also important to look at your college itself and see what scholarships they have. For the University of Texas, for example, they have Texas Exes, and Texas Exes offers a lot of scholarships directly for students, whether it be a full ride to their 40 acres program, or their smaller scholarships for certain minority groups and certain groups with certain interests as well. You can find scholarships for people who love owls, or scholarships for people who like to play the piano. Like there's scholarships for anybody and everywhere, but it's important to just do your research and find these scholarships throughout the entire process, whether it be from the beginning of junior year all the way to the end of senior year,
And
even afterwards in college as well.
exactly. I was going to add on that point. Like the scholarship journey never ends. You can apply for scholarships literally throughout your entire education, but starting early definitely helps you in your choices and understanding which colleges you can afford and the college that you decide to go into in the end. And like regarding that, there was a question of which year do we write the PSAT generally? So you do write it from eighth grade almost every year, unless your school opts out. But the only one that truly counts for anything is your junior year. So your 11th grade PSAT that happens in October of your junior year. So that's the one that's going to count the most. Another question is, we would like to hear more about the medical field and how to prepare during high school, time when it comes to clubs, camps, volunteering, and so on. I can start off a little bit, and I'll make this a little bit more generalized than not just medical field, but I can like pop in a couple of those as well. But when you are preparing for a specific major, there are things that you can do inside your school and outside. So in terms of inside your school, there are orgs for literally every major that you can think of. And if there aren't, you can go ahead and start it, which looks amazing in your apps as well. And when it comes to clubs, for example, for medical field, there's things like HOSA, which is like Health Occupation Students of America, I believe that's what it's called. Or if you want business, there's FBLA, FCCLA, DECA, things of that sort. For computer science, there was one called ACSA. Robotics, if your school offers that, that's pretty like lucrative. As well as Girls Who Code. That's a very popular organization, things of that sort. There should be orgs of every single kind for you. And again, if there isn't something for you, you can go ahead and get started on it. And then I'm assuming that the question that you're asking is how to kind of manage your time with orgs, camps, volunteering, blah, blah, blah. Remember that your application is holistic. They're not looking at just one part. So let's say you are amazing in clubs, but everything else kind of falls short. That's not going to do much for you. So when you're dividing your time, make sure you're giving equal importance to make all of these well-versed, even if it's not pushing everything to the max. Okay. Yes, have volunteering hours. Yes, have orgs, but don't overload yourself in too much of one thing in the hopes that, oh, if I'm just amazing in this aspect, I'll get in. You want to be well versed in all of the different rungs. And again, I had another webinar that kind of broke down all of the different aspects. I broke it down into 5 or 6 aspects, and those were your academics, so that's your GPA, your ranking, your grades, your standardized test scores, so that's your SAT, PSAT, ACT, whatever it is. And then third, it's going to come down to your essays. And then 4, it's going to be your extracurriculars. And that's where these orgs, volunteering, all of that kind of falls under. And last but not least, 5, your story. How are you weaving all of this together to make a persona for yourself? So all of these different things do matter. So don't focus too much on one, is what I'll say. I can't give you specific hours because that does kind of, range from person to person. And that's something you kind of have to decide for yourself. But that's the biggest tip that I would kind of give. And another question. I've heard that founding a nonprofit shows passion and initiative. What are your thoughts? Pranav, do you want to take it?
Yeah, so I was really interested in this question since it came up. I think what's more important is how you're able to work with your community rather than just focusing on that nonprofit itself. Nonprofits, I guess, do sometimes have an impact in your college acceptances or the college process. But today in this world, just the word nonprofit doesn't really show impact. It's more about the impact that you have in your community. So, like, for example, Dunn talked about the $10,000 scenario and helping your community that way. Creating a nonprofit might not have any value, might not have that much value, but raising those $10,000 does. So while a nonprofit does add value, it's more about the impact that you're showing, and rather than having that nonprofit itself.
Yeah, and that kind of answers some of the other questions that we have. Like someone asked, I'm in ROTC, is that helpful? Another person said, does being an Eagle Scout help with college admissions? And all of these things, yes, everything helps, but it's all about the impact that you create through it and how you showcase that on your application. So Pranav kind of covered like what impact means, but by showcasing, I mean, on your resume or your essay, how well are you kind of showing these skills and putting it out there? Right. And let me give you guys an example. This is an example that someone told me and that really helped me. Right. I can say I play the piano, but so can every single other person in this world. Right. I play the piano and I can leave it at that. Or in terms of impact, I can start building into it and I can say I've learned piano for the past 8 years. I started off as a student. And for 5 years, I did guild examinations, which are like competitive piano examinations in front of a judge. And each of these 5 years, I went up a level each and every single time until I ended up being in the National League for piano playing. Next, after that, I decided to start tutoring young kids for piano. And with this money, I started raising proceeds to go to a child rights and education organization that I've spent my time and efforts to donating to. And all of a sudden, you took I played piano and you put a story into it, the impact of it, and then you wrote out exactly what that means for you. And no matter what it is, whether that being an Eagle Scout, ROTC, right? You have to show an impact more than just what's going on paper. So I hope that kind of helps with a lot of other specific questions too. Then another question that we had are, what are the advantages of being valedictorian? I'll broaden this question a little bit to like not just valedictorian, but being top 10%, 6%. Pranav, do you kind of want to explain the whole concept of automatic admission within Texas and what kind of scholarships valedictorians kind of get?
Yeah, of course. So, like, specifically in Texas, we have the rule that states that the top 10% of students in each high school gets automatic acceptance into any college in the state of Texas. This doesn't specifically say that you're going to get your major, but you're designated a spot in every single college. For Texas A&M, for example, they give you the opportunity to choose 3 different majors. And you're designated a spot at the university, but you have to apply for each major. Being in the top 10% helps you in that way. For the top 6%, it's the same thing, but specifically with the University of Texas Austin. Because there's a lot more applications, the state of Texas has allowed them to just keep a designated spot for the top 6%. And then we get to the top 10, valedictorian and valedictorian. Being in the top 10 really has similar top 10 people has very similar impacts in your college admissions process as your GPA. But the valedictorian specifically has some scholarships in the state of Texas. For I think any school in Texas, you're able to get 1 year free if you're a valedictorian. And this is a little different for each college. For the University of Texas, I know this is true. And for the University of Texas at Dallas, it's true as well. But each college has a different impact. But being valedictorian specifically doesn't always have that much of an impact unless it's a scholarship at certain universities.
And on top of it, it can also kind of impact the programs that you get into. For example, Canfield Business Honors. So that's the program that I'm in at UT. They very primarily, like 80 to 90% of their people that they're getting accepted are going to be valedictorians and salutatorians, so rank 1 and 2. So that is a criteria that they have behind the scenes. Similarly, a lot of these like programs that are very specific, they do value having very high ranks when admitting students into their programs. That being said, even if you don't fall under these categories, if the rest of your application is strong, you still have a very, very good chance of getting into the same program, same majors. But if you have the time, definitely work towards being in the top 6% to 10%, because that's kind of your ideal goal and where you want to be, regardless of what state you're in, but specifically so definitely in Texas. And these rules change from state to state. So every state has their own rules on what that automatic acceptance is. Do they even have that? Whatever it is. So definitely check out your state's information for that. All right, next question. Generally, how many volunteering hours do we need? This is a very popular question that I get all the time. And for this, there is no benchmark. There is no, oh, get 50 to 100 hours. There's nothing of that sort to really solidify that in, right? People do say like typically like try to get 80 to 100 hours if you're like in like normal like majors, and if you're in healthcare, try to get more than that, 100 to 200, because like that's very important. But all of that is rendered useless unless, again, like me and Pranav have been very much emphasizing, you have a story behind it. I can say I've done 200 hours volunteering in food shelters at the local library. Okay, like I can say that. But that's not going to be nearly as impactful as if I said, and then picking to the whole like children's education example, right? But this bleeds into literally any other example you can think of. But let's say that was a topic that I'm very passionate about, like raising funds for children education and like improving that. All of a sudden, if I say I only have 60 hours, but in these 60 hours, I have either my own nonprofit or I raise funds for a very specific nonprofit. I went and I spent time in like lower income neighborhoods with children, and I started teaching them fine art skills that they don't usually get access to because their school does not have the budget for it. And all of a sudden, even though it seems like the hours are less, the impact is so much more and the value is so much more. So you don't just want to do willy-nilly hours, you want to do it for a particular passion, a cause, and a series. So that's going to be my best answer for you.
A lot of times these college admissions officers really look at can see through the academics or the activities that you're doing, and when you don't, then they aren't able to the whole journey through that process. Sometimes those activities, though useful for your learning and understanding, might not be as impactful in the college admission process as well.
All right, yes, definitely. And in this question, I've heard that getting internships can make or break your admission. So generally, do you think even if you aren't able to get one, would you be at a disadvantage? This is a big myth buster moment. You do not have to have, for sure, an internship to get into college. That is not true. If you don't have one, do not be discouraged. In fact, for me, like I had like half of an internship-ish when applying to college, and it was very recent. Like, and I know so many people that have gotten into things with zero internships. In fact, I know people that have gone into majors that they have zero experience in. I have a friend who got into the business honors program at UT, has done zero business related things in high school. I have a friend that got into engineering at UT, has done zero engineering related things, and literally did not even know like the basics of coding or anything at all. And she got in. And so my point here is it's less about these titles and saying that you have an internship or you worked here and there. And again, it's all about the impact. If you had a personal project instead of an internship that had some sort of an impact or you learned a lot from it, that's going to have just as much value as an internship does. At the same time, obviously the reason people say things like is getting an internship is like vital, blah blah blah, the reason for that is going to be the fact that they are helpful. They are good pathways to get to where you want to be. Are they mandatory? Absolutely not, but they are good pathways. And if you have the time, I definitely encourage you guys to go out, try to find an internship, try to find a job, because that's good. That's exactly what you should be doing. But if you don't get it, don't get discouraged. There are so many other avenues that work just as well. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Pranav?
Well, going off of that, we've talking. Another question was about having a passion project and if it needs to really relate with your major. And while it does help sometimes to have a passion project that relates to your major, specifically maybe when applying for CS or an engineering major and you want to showcase your skills, sometimes it doesn't need to. Like Thana was saying earlier, it's more important about your impact and just the fact that you're showing passion in what you do rather than specifically your major itself. For example, someone we know started running a cotton candy business, a cotton candy cake business, actually, because she just likes making cotton candy cakes. But now she's at the business honors program at UT Austin just because she was really interested in creating cotton cakes. And through that process, she was able to learn that she was interested in business. So sometimes we think about it in a college first, passion project second kind of way, but we should be really thinking about it in a passion project first, college second kind of way.
Yeah, I fully agree. And there's a couple of other questions that are exactly like that. So if I do blank, blank, and blank, and it doesn't relate to my major, is that okay? I have someone that's asking, I haven't, what is it? If my volunteering isn't related to my major, is it okay? Yes. At the end of the day, nothing, because like think about it. Like you pick your major like junior year, senior year, right before you apply. You don't know that freshman year. So it's not like all the experiences that you did then are just thrown to waste, right? It's again about the initiative, and they call this transferable skills. That's a very big key, like vocab word that you should keep in your mind. And this is something that's going to follow you into jobs and internship applications as well. So these are skills that you're going to get by doing certain things that might not on like the title level apply to something else that you're applying to, but the skills, like whether that be resourcefulness, adaptivity, research skills, presentation skills, things like this, they'll transfer into other things and still help you along the line. So just because it doesn't relate to your major does not make it useless at all. In fact, it strengthens you. It makes you a unique applicant. I was talking to this one college admissions officer one time, and he was talking to me about these two applicants, okay? Same SAT scores, practically same GPA and rank, practically same extracurriculars, and everything about these applicants was very similar. So I asked him, so like, how did you pick? How did you pick between these two? And he went, well, at that time, our college had just had a chess club that was started, and they were looking for more students. Out of these two very equal applicants, one of them played chess. We took him. So you never know what's going to get you into these programs. So even if it's not related, put it in there if it's something you're passionate about, and it'll give you something. Let's do another question. I'm going to enter my senior year and I haven't applied to enough scholarships. Should I be concerned? Absolutely not. No, don't even worry. You have all of senior year and you have the time that you're in college specifically as well to apply for scholarships. So that's a continuous process. You can continue like applying to them. If you are entering junior year and still haven't gotten a leadership position in any of your extracurriculars, should you be concerned? Pranav, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I'd say no, you don't really need to. A lot of the people I know focus specifically if they aren't able to find leadership positions in their school itself, focus on finding opportunities and impact in their community. Earlier, we had a question about nonprofits and really impacting your community that way, and creating the like a community aspect outside of school that focuses on your interests does the same impact as having a leadership position in school. You shouldn't be that concerned. I just focus on how you can implement your passions and your initiatives outside of school if you're not really able to get those leadership positions in school.
Yeah. And on top of leadership positions, it's also like being a member, you can still have some sort of an impact. I know a lot of orgs do like committees or events that they host, and they are looking for volunteers for people to brainstorm with them. Go ahead and participate in that, and you can write that in your resume. Helped host the school's prom, or helped run a local charity drive that did blank, blank, and blank. Just because you don't have a leadership position doesn't mean that you don't have an impact. Again, it's never about the title, it's about your actions. So don't worry too much about it. Another question is early application or early decision worth it? Is it something that you recommend? Great question. So let me start off by explaining the differences between the two. So you have early application, early decision, and you're going to hear so many other words like rolling applications, final decision, things like that. There's a lot of different words out there, and these are pretty common, right? So first off, early application, early decision, the deadline to submit your apps for that is going to be much earlier than your regular decision date, as they call it. And there's a difference between early application and early decision. And early application means you can early apply EA to a lot of different schools. You can apply to every single early application deadline there is. And what that gives you is a chance for them to look at your application twice. If you get rejected from the early application pool, they're going to take your resume your application, and instead of discarding it, they're going to put it back into the regular application pool. So then you get a second chance at getting into the college because they'll take a look at it one more time. Early decision kind of works the same way. However, you can only ED, early decision, to one school. You only have the capacity to early decision in one school, and it is binding. That means if I ED to UPenn and I had gotten in, I have to go to UPenn. I can't switch to go to another college. So if there's a college that you're 1000% sure of that you want to get into and you're able to afford, that's a big thing that you're able to afford, then you would ED and you would only do one thing. And the cool thing about ED is if every person that's applying only has one school they can ED to, instead of like 100,000 applications, you're only going to get 1,000 applications in that pool. And all of a sudden, your chances of getting into that school are exponentially higher. However, again, if you pull out of an ED, like they give you that seat and then you realize, I don't have the financial means to support myself there, or I might get into a better program, I don't want to go there, you can't change your mind. And in the case that you do, colleges communicate with each other, and that could get your offers from other schools revoked. So ED is a very important topic that you need to look into. And then last but not least, rolling decisions. These are schools like, off the top of my head, UTD and A&M have rolling decisions. And what that means is when their applications open August 1st, let's say you applied and you submitted on August 10th, they'll take a look at your application August 10th. However, like regular decision schools are going to be like, okay, the deadline is November 30th, so I'm not going to take a look until November 30th, even if you applied August 10th. And the reason this is important is it helps you gauge your time. Should you submit early? Like, is that beneficial to you, or should you wait a little longer and make a better application? So those are the questions that poses for you. And all of this has to be a part of your college research. You want this to be in that spreadsheet you create for yourself so you can prioritize which college you're working on first, which one you're working on second, etc., etc. All right.
Going off that question, we had an earlier question about when applying to colleges, do you need a green card or citizenship to get into good colleges? That's not completely true. It is, they're getting into college is the same for anybody, no matter what. It's all about the activities you're doing and things like that. But when coming into the finances, sometimes not having a green card or citizenship, I don't have one either, can really impact your scholarships that you might get. For example, Dhanushri was talking a little bit earlier about EDing to schools. And when you ED to a school, if you are not a citizen and if you're an international applicant, sometimes if you do ED, it becomes officially binding, even if you don't have the financial capabilities. You have to sign a little waiver that says if you do get into the college, you will go even if you don't get aid, because they don't give you aid if you're an international student technically. Compared to a citizen, if they apply to a college using the FAFSA and they do get aid through that process, or they don't get aid through that process when they ED, they can back out from that ED because they aren't physically able to pay for that because they didn't get the aid they need to. Similarly, just applying for scholarships itself becomes a little bit harder when you don't have a green card or citizenship, and that goes back to applying to local scholarships. A lot of the scholarships that I received were local scholarships rather than national scholarships like the Koch Scholarship. So while it doesn't really impact your getting into good colleges as much, it still impacts the scholarships and finances a little bit when you're applying to the process.
Yes, and that's very insightful. And also, if you're in orgs like in school, if you win competitions or you apply to scholarships through the orgs, that's another way that you can get it. I got, for example, a Hilton Marriott scholarship through DECA because I was a member there. So things like that. So stay on the lookout. They're everywhere. One more thing that does happen, however, if you don't have a green card or a citizenship, is you might be placed in a different applicant pool. So your what is it? Your deadline to submit and your the day that they tell you whether you got in or not is going to be a little different from the US applicants. So just keep that in mind and do extra research into it. Another question that we have is PSAT and SAT exam pattern similar? Is there any change in SAT exam pattern? So patterns specifically, they're both the exact same. So both of them have a reading and writing section, both of them have a math section and two modules. So there hasn't been a change in pattern between these two, but there has been a recent change in testing ways, and that is SAT and PSAT are now online. And that makes it a little bit different. So they have a module structure, meaning depending on how good you do in the first module of the exam, that determines how you're doing, how hard of a question you're going to get in the second module. So that's a little different from normal. It's not the same thing, but both the PSAT and SAT are similar. In fact, if you're prepping for the SAT, that'll be enough to prep for PSAT. The PSAT just lacks one of the math concepts and some of the reading concepts that is tested in the SAT. SAT is just a harder version of the PSAT in a sense. Does UT Austin have ED? I don't believe so. UT Austin only has early action. ED is something that you're going to find typically in like your IB leagues of really big schools, things of that sort. So usually most schools, they either have an early action or an early decision. They don't usually have both. There are some exceptions, but they usually have one or the other.
On top of that, early decisions are specifically meant for private universities. Public universities, I don't think are always legally able to have those ED processes. So in your private colleges, that's where your EDs come from. And that's again why they have the financial backing, where if you aren't able to, as a citizen, if you aren't able to financially take the offer after you get your financial aid, you can back out.
Yeah. So do you recommend as a freshman to write CBE to skip classes? Or is it okay if I don't write CB? Okay, credit-based exam, so to skip classes. It really depends. It depends on what your goal is. If you're skipping classes so that you can have more time and space to take in more classes, then by all means. Or if you already know the concepts very well, go ahead, again, by all means. If you have the skills, you can do it. If not, again, there is no worries. There's a reason those are optional. There's a reason that's like an extra step. You don't have to take any of these credit-based exams to get ahead. One thing I will say is a lot of students nowadays have started to become core complete for colleges, meaning regardless of what major you're going into, every state has a certain standardized amount of different types of courses that you're supposed to take in college. And they get these classes done in high school through dual credit, through AP classes, IB classes, things of that sort. So if you want to get to those level, taking credit-based exams might be helpful to get you to that point. All right. Okay, we're definitely running low on time, so we'll answer as many as we can. But in the case that we aren't able to answer it, again, Bhavya, like put the links in the chat. We have a WhatsApp group, put all of these in there, and we will we'll be very active and like answer as many questions as we can for you. Pranav, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I was just going to answer the next question.
Okay, go for it. So I'm a senior in high school, and I'm not as sure what to put for my college essay. I don't have many struggle stories.
So, well, when I also don't have that many struggle stories when I was looking at it, and it took a lot of time to figure out what I would write about. We look at these lots of good essays that talk about struggles they've had in the past and how they've become a hero out of it. But you can also really talk about your interests and your passions, like we've been talking about before. In my personal statement, I talked about food. I feel like I'm always thinking about food and cooking food or something and all the time. So I talked about how food has really changed the way I think about life and how I work through my struggles or the clubs and organizations, my academic struggles, or just things in general that I go through in regular life that many of us go through in a new type of way that I've learned through food. So it's really important to just try to emphasize how you've utilized your passions in a way that have changed you as a person rather than focusing on just the struggles that you may or may not have.
Yes, so that's a great answer to the question. You don't need a struggle story. It's again about what you're passionate about, things that you've done, and how you can enhance that at whatever college that you end up going to. So don't worry about that. Okay, so I'm having a lot of like specific questions about like AP Psych, WAP, multivariable calculus. If you have specific questions like that, text me outside of this, like in the WhatsApp group or something of that sort, and I'll get back to you specifically. And also, that does change from school district to district to school to school. So definitely like make a appointment with your college, not college, high school counselor and talk to them. They are here for that. They're getting paid for that. And even in the summer, they are responsive and they do set up meetings with you. So reach out to me privately on those just so we can like focus our time here on like bigger questions. Do colleges consider the difficulty of classes you take? Yes. So one way they consider it is through GPA because they have weighted and unweighted GPA. On top of it, they try to see like, are you taking lots of challenging courses? And that's a definite benefit to your application. You can list that in your resume, or you can send your AP scores or your IB scores or something like that to the colleges. And those are two places that you can really highlight that for sure. I'm a senior and I only have 3 colleges in my list. Should I add more? I would definitely like suggest you to definitely research more because I promise there are things out there that you will definitely be interested in if you just research a bit more into it and you want to apply. That being said, if it's because of financial constraints or time constraints or you're dead set and like I have what it takes to get into said colleges and that's why you're only doing 3, that's fine. I have a friend that only applied to 3 colleges. He ended up applying to UT Austin, UT Dallas, and A&M, and that's it, nothing else. And he got into all 3. So he's happy, he's great. But at the same time, there has been this fear that whole application process time for him of, oh my God, what happens if I don't get to any of these? So definitely have a safety college within those 3 or more. Have a safety college. And that's like a lot of people like decide not to apply to a safety college because they're like ego hurt. They're like, oh, I don't want to go there. Like, why would I waste my time applying there? Like, I'm better than that. Well, the whole college application process is a very like dice roll up to chance type of thing. You never know what's going to happen. And having those as a safety net can take you a really long way. So please have a safety college. And if you're at 3 colleges, I would definitely research and add a couple more. So the golden ratio is going to be from 6 to 10, I would say. If I take PSAT in my 10th grade April, am I allowed to take it again August 11th grade? Yeah, so you take the PSAT like multiple times. They offer it 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Only the 11th grade one counts for anything, and you're almost mandated to take it if you are studying in the US. And usually it's in October, not August. So I would take a look deeper into that, what that means, but it should potentially be in October for PSAT. And I also had a question earlier, I just remembered, where it's like there's a couple of people on this call that are outside the US, like from Canada and things like that. And if they're applying to US schools, do they just have to take the SAT or also the PSAT? Typically, just the SAT suffices. However, there are other requirements that you take on top of it. I don't know them specifically off the top of my head, but if you go into a specific college's website and you search up international applications, international undergraduate applications, you'll be able to find this detail. And you can also, again, you can call the university or you can email them with your specific scenario and they will help you with that. They will tell you these are the requirements of what you need to get where you need to be. So yeah, definitely do that. What do colleges value more? Extracurricular, you're really good at like a national level, or passion projects, community projects, which have a positive and impactful effect. Again, they're the same thing. It's a holistic process, right? Everything like adds a point, nothing decreases a point. In the grand scheme of things, like it's good if you have both. If you only have one, that's also good. It doesn't matter. There's no one is better than the other. There's too many variables for them to be able to say that. But, okay, that's a good point though, because it depends on your college. There are some colleges that prioritize a certain skill set more than other colleges. There are some colleges that love research, okay, and research-based things. So if you have extracurriculars that are versed like that way, they really like you and they'll take you on that. There's some colleges that like competitive aspects and they like having high GPAs and winning competitions, things of that sort. Then like you have, and to find out what that is for a college, you have to talk to students that go there as well as counselors, things of that sort. So definitely reach out to them individually, I would say. Okay, okay, Pranav, you answered that one. SAT also we take in junior year along with PSAT. Okay, perfect. Do we submit college credits that we receive from APs and dual credits before or after college applications? It's kind of like a staggered timeline. It depends from college to college. Some of them have it where you have to submit it along with your application. A lot of them have it where it's like, okay, November 30th, let's say that's your deadline. You'll have to submit it by December 30th. So a little bit of a stagger there, but it depends on college. So you would have to read into their application process. How long do they spend
And
reading?
some even
Mhm.
you don't even need to send the credit as well. Some colleges will just ask you to self-report it, and then once you get in, then you will send it. Because sometimes the College Board does make you pay for sending these AP scores as well to them. So a lot of colleges prefer you just send them after you get accepted as well, whether you decide to get in or not. So that's something you need to look at specifically for school to school.
Exactly. Great point. Yeah. Next question. How long do they spend reading your application and what points do we put at the beginning so they see them? Well, I think it's like an average of 2 to 5 minutes on your entire application. That includes your essays, that includes your resume, things of that sort. But I will say your application is read not just by one person, but multiple people. So in terms of what they notice is going to be different for all of these people, and together reading the reports of all of these people, that's how they make a decision on whether to let you into the college and major or not. So there isn't really putting it at the beginning for anything except for your resume. For your resume, you definitely want to prioritize understanding how you're breaking it down, how you're organizing it, because the structure does matter. The thing about resumes is they're very fluid. You can do whatever sections you want, whatever titles for sections that you want. So keeping it relative to what like actual like experience you have and how you can shape it to yourself, that can definitely help. And real quick, just to take a little pause from the questions, I know that we're nearing the end of our time. So one more time, guys, go ahead and fill out that form. I'll send you guys a recording of this entire session. My contact information is on the screen right now. Please feel free to reach out. And if you guys have any questions afterwards too, pop it in the WhatsApp chat or email us. I'll send you guys Pranav's contact information when sending the recording as well. And you guys can have access to him and ask him all the questions that you would like as well. And I'll stop the recording here, but we'll hang out just a couple of minutes to answer a couple more questions, as many as we can get to. But after that, again, please feel free to reach out to us later. And thank you so, so much for listening to the session.